The day I gave birth, my husband signed over our house to his mother without telling me. "You're not ready," he said. I smiled. "We'll see." I sued and won. He turned pale as I left with the baby and his money. "Look, I'm gonna tell y'all a story. That'll make your blood boil and then hopefully have you cheering by the end." This whole mess started on what should have been the happiest day of my life, the day my daughter was born. Picture this. I'm lying in that hospital bed, exhausted as heck after 18 hours of labor holding my beautiful baby girl for the first time. She's perfect. No cap. 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, and these bright eyes that seem to see right through to my soul. My husband's sitting there next to me, and I'm thinking we're having this beautiful family moment, you know? But something felt off. He kept checking his phone, stepping out to take calls, acting all sketchy. I figured maybe he was just nervous about becoming a dad, first kid and all that jazz. Boy, was I wrong. The nurse comes in with some paperwork, routine stuff they always make you sign after delivery. Birth certificate forms, insurance stuff, the usual. My husband jumps up real quick and goes, "I'll handle all that, babe. You just rest." Sweet, right? Wrong again. 3 days later, we're home with our little angel, and I'm going through the mail. You know how it piles up when you're in the hospital. There's this official-looking envelope from some law office I'd never heard of. Inside is a copy of property transfer documents. Our house, the one we bought together, the one I put my savings into for the down payment, had been signed over to his mother. And get this, it was dated the exact day our daughter was born. I'm staring at these papers like they're written in ancient Greek or something. My hands are literally shaking. The signature looks like his. And there's my name too, except I sure as heck never signed anything. I march into the living room where he's watching ESPN, baby in his arms, acting like everything's perfectly normal. Care to explain this? I wave the papers in his face. He doesn't even look surprised, just shrugs and goes, "Mom needs security. The house is safer in her name." Safer? What about my security? What about our baby's security? That's when he hit me with the line that still makes my blood pressure spike. "You're not ready to handle adult responsibilities. Mom knows what's best." Y'all, I've never wanted to throw something so bad in my life. Here I am, 3 days postpartum, hormones all over the place. And this man is telling me I'm not ready for adult responsibilities. Like I didn't just push a whole human being out of my body. Like I didn't work 2 jobs to help buy that house. Like I hadn't been handling adult responsibilities since I was 18 and putting myself through college. But instead of exploding, which let's be real would have been totally justified, I just smiled, sweet as pie. We'll see about that. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support in the comments. I know this sounds crazy, but it gets worse before it gets better. Some of you are asking if I had any idea this was coming. Honestly, there were red flags I ignored. But here's the thing that's got me really fired up now. What do you think I found when I started digging deeper into our finances? First thing I did was call my girl Sarah. She's a paralegal and knows her way around legal stuff. We meet up at this little coffee shop downtown, and I bring every document I can find. Birth certificates, marriage certificate, mortgage papers, bank statements, the works. Sarah takes one look at the property transfer and goes, "Girl, this signature isn't yours." I know that. But how do I prove it? Easy. We get a handwriting expert, but more importantly, where were you when this was supposedly signed? In the hospital, giving birth to his child. Sarah's eyes get real wide. "Oh, honey, we got him." Turns out forging someone's signature on legal documents is a pretty big deal. Who knew, right? Sarah hooks me up with this lawyer, Ms. Rodriguez, who specializes in family law and fraud cases. She takes one look at my situation and practically rubs her hands together. "This is slam dunk," she says. "Fraud, forgery, and we can probably nail him for emotional distress too." While we're building the case, I start doing some detective work of my own. I'm talking full CSI mode here, going through bank statements, checking our credit reports, the whole 9 yards. And boy, did I find some interesting stuff. Turns out my dear husband had been moving money around for months, small amounts at first, 50 here, 100 there, nothing I'd notice right away. But over 6 months, he'd moved almost 10 grand out of our joint savings into an account I didn't even know existed, an account with his mother's name on it. The house transfer wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. This whole thing was planned out like a military operation. They'd been plotting this for months, probably since they found out I was pregnant. I'm sitting there in Ms. Rodriguez's office, baby girl sleeping in her carrier next to me, going through all this evidence, and I'm feeling every emotion you can. Imagine, angry, hurt, betrayed, but also something else, determined. These people thought they could outsmart me, thought I was just some naive little girl who'd roll over and take it. Meanwhile, at home, my husband's acting like nothing happened. He's playing the devoted daddy role, posting pictures on Facebook, getting all these congratulations comments from people who have no idea what's really going down. His mom even has the audacity to post a picture of our house with the caption, "So blessed to have expanded our family property." The disrespect was unreal. I started documenting everything, every conversation, every weird look, every time he tried to handle paperwork without me. I even started recording some of our conversations on my phone. Ms. Rodriguez said that was legal in our state as long as one party consents, and I definitely consented to recording my own conversations. One evening, about 2 weeks after I found out about the house situation, we're having dinner and he brings up daycare. Mom found a great daycare program. It's near her house, so she can help with pickup and drop off. Near her house? What about near our jobs? Well, you're not going back to work right away, are you? Mom thinks you should focus on being a mother. There it was again, what mom thinks. I'm starting to realize this wasn't just about the house. This was about control. They wanted to control where I lived, where my baby went to daycare, whether I worked, probably what I ate for breakfast if they could manage it. I'm going back to work in 8 weeks, just like we planned. His face changes completely. We need to talk about that. Mom doesn't think— I don't care what your mother thinks. He gets this look like I just slapped him. She's trying to help us. By stealing our house? It's not stealing. It's family planning. Family planning. That's what he called fraud and forgery. Family planning. Update. The comments asking about his reaction when I served him papers. Y'all are not ready for this part. But first, I need to tell you about what my lawyer discovered when she dug into his mother's finances. I'm talking about stuff that makes the house thing look like child's play. Have any of you ever dealt with someone who thought they were untouchable? Because that's exactly what happened next. Ms. Rodriguez came through with some information that knocked my socks off. Apparently, dear mother-in-law had done this before. Not the exact same scheme, but similar shady financial moves with family members. Sarah's cousin works at the courthouse and did some digging through public records. Turns out his mom had been involved in 2 other property disputes with relatives over the past 5 years. She's got a pattern, Ms. Rodriguez explains. She finds family members in vulnerable positions and manipulates the situation to her advantage. We filed 3 separate lawsuits, one for fraud and forgery related to the house transfer, one for the unauthorized access to our joint bank accounts. And here's the kicker, one for grandparent alienation and attempted parental interference, because apparently his mother had already started telling people at her church that she was raising her grandbaby because I was unfit. Me. The woman who worked through her entire pregnancy, saved money for 9 months to prepare for this baby, read every parenting book at the library, and spent hours researching the safest car seats and cribs. But sure, I'm unfit. The day we served the papers was absolutely beautiful. I made sure to coordinate it perfectly. My husband was at work, so the process server went to his office, a nice professional accounting firm where he's always worried about his reputation. His mom got served at her book club meeting at the community center. I heard about both reactions through my network of friends and neighbors. Apparently, he turned white as a sheet when the guy handed him the papers at his desk, right in front of his coworkers. Started stuttering about how there must be some mistake, calling me a crazy hormonal new mother. His mom, though, she went full nuclear meltdown mode right there in front of the church ladies, started screaming about ungrateful daughters-in-law and how she was only trying to help. Really showed her true colors in front of all those women who thought she was such a sweet, godly grandmother. That evening, my phone starts blowing up. Text after text from my husband, then phone calls I didn't answer. Then he comes storming into the house like a tornado. What the heck is wrong with you? You're suing my mother? I'm sitting there, calm as can be, feeding our daughter her bottle. I'm suing both of you, actually. This is insane. We're family. Family doesn't forge signatures. Family doesn't steal houses. Family doesn't move money without permission. He starts pacing around the living room like a caged animal. Mom was just trying to protect our assets. From who? From me? I'm your wife. You don't understand business. There it was again. Poor little me, too stupid to understand business. Except I had a business degree and had been managing our household finances for 3 years. But sure, I don't understand business. I understand fraud pretty well, though. That stopped him dead in his tracks. For the first time since this whole mess started, he looked genuinely scared. It's not fraud. We're married. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. Exactly. So when you forge my signature and steal my house, that's fraud. Over the next few weeks, things got really ugly. He tried everything, threatening to take the baby, claiming I was mentally unstable, even suggesting I had postpartum depression and wasn't thinking clearly. His mother started calling my work, trying to get me fired by telling my boss I was involved in frivolous lawsuits. But here's the thing about having a solid case and a good lawyer. All their desperate moves just made them look worse. Ms. Rodriguez documented every threat, every harassment attempt, every lie they tried to spread. The handwriting analysis came back conclusive, definitely not my signature on those property documents. The bank records showed a clear pattern of unauthorized transfers, and the timeline proved everything was premeditated, planned while I was pregnant and vulnerable. We also discovered something really interesting. Remember that mysterious bank account with his mother's name on it? Turns out it wasn't just our money in there. She'd been running the same scam on other family members, his uncle's truck title, his cousin's boat, even money from his grandmother's estate that was supposed to be split between all the grandchildren. This woman was basically a one-person crime syndicate, and my husband was her accomplice. The turning point came during the deposition. Ms. Rodriguez had his mother under oath, and she started asking about the other family members, the other properties, the pattern of behavior. His mother's lawyer kept objecting, but the questions were totally legitimate since they established a pattern of fraud. Watching his mother squirm under questioning was honestly therapeutic. All that fake sweetness disappeared real quick when she was facing potential criminal charges. She started throwing my husband under the bus, claiming he pressured her into the house transfer, that she didn't understand what she was signing. Meanwhile, my husband's trying to throw her under the bus, claiming she manipulated him into going along with her schemes. It was like watching 2 rats fight over a piece of cheese, except the cheese was my life and my daughter's security. Update. Y'all asked if there was a moment when I knew I had them beat, and trust me, there absolutely was. It involved his mother breaking down completely and my husband making a choice that sealed their fate. But I'm wondering, what would you have done when they tried to use my own baby against me in court? Because that's exactly what happened, and my response surprised even me. The breakthrough moment came during my husband's deposition. Ms. Rodriguez had been building up to this question for weeks, and when she finally asked it, you could have heard a pin drop in that conference room. Did you or did you not tell your wife, on the day she gave birth to your child, that she wasn't ready for adult responsibilities? His lawyer jumped in with an objection, but Ms. Rodriguez had done her homework. She had my phone recording from 2 weeks later when he'd repeated the same sentiment during our dinner conversation about daycare. My husband tried to backtrack, claiming he was just concerned about postpartum stress, that he wanted to help me adjust to motherhood. But then Ms. Rodriguez played the recording, his own voice clear as day. Mom doesn't think you should focus on work right now. You're not ready to handle both motherhood and a career. The look on his face was priceless. He'd completely forgotten about that conversation, probably figured I was too tired and overwhelmed to remember exactly what he'd said. But I remembered everything. That's when his whole defense started crumbling. See, they'd been trying to paint this picture of a concerned husband and grandmother, just looking out for a new mother's best interests. But the recording showed their real attitude, that I was incompetent and needed their management. Ms. Rodriguez used that as a springboard to introduce evidence of financial competence. My college transcripts showing a 3.8 GPA in business administration. My employment records showing 3 years of perfect attendance and 2 promotions. My personal financial records showing I'd saved over $15,000 in the 2 years before our marriage. Does this look like someone who's not ready for adult responsibilities? She asked the room. But the real knockout punch came when we brought in his uncle. Remember I mentioned his mother had been running similar scams on other family members? Well, his uncle finally got fed up and decided to testify. This poor man had lost his truck, his boat, and about $20,000 to my mother-in-law's schemes. She'd convinced him to put his assets in her name for tax purposes and then refused to transfer them back. When he tried to fight it, she'd use the same playbook, claiming he wasn't capable of managing his own affairs, that she was protecting him from his own poor decisions. The pattern was clear as day. She found people in vulnerable positions, new parents, elderly relatives, anyone going through a stressful life change, and convinced them to sign over their assets for protection. Then she'd refuse to give anything back, claiming they weren't competent to handle their own affairs. His uncle's testimony was devastating. Here's this 60-year-old man, retired military, talking about how his own sister had manipulated and stolen from him. He'd tried to handle it privately, within the family, but she'd just gotten more aggressive and controlling. She told everyone I was losing my memory, that I couldn't be trusted with money, he testified. Meanwhile, she was driving around in my truck and taking her friends out on my boat. After his uncle's testimony, something shifted in my husband's demeanor. I think he finally realized the scope of what his mother had been doing, and more importantly, how it looked to everyone else. This wasn't some caring grandmother looking out for family, this was systematic financial abuse. That evening, he came home looking defeated. I was in the nursery, rocking our daughter to sleep, when he appeared in the doorway. I want to settle, he said quietly. Settle what? Everything. The house, the money, all of it. I kept rocking, didn't even look at him. What's your mother think about that? I don't care what she thinks anymore. That was the first time in our entire marriage he'd ever said those words. Too little, too late, but still. The house goes back in my name only, I said. Every penny you moved gets returned with interest, and you sign a legal document stating you have no claim to any of my future earnings or assets. What about us? What about our marriage? I finally looked at him then. What marriage? You forged my signature. You stole my house. You tried to control my life through your mother. What exactly do you think we're going to come back from here? He started crying then, which honestly just made me angry. Where were these tears when he was planning this whole scheme? Where was this remorse when he was telling me I wasn't ready for adult responsibilities? I thought I was doing what was best. For our family, he sobbed. No, you thought you were doing what was easiest for you. There's a difference. The settlement negotiations took another 2 weeks, but eventually we reached an agreement. The house went back into my name exclusively. All the money got returned, plus damages for the legal fees and emotional distress his mother had to pay. Restitution to his uncle and 2 other family members who came forward once they heard about the case. But here's the part that really satisfied me. They both had to sign documents admitting to fraud and forgery. Those documents went into the public record, which meant anyone who wanted to do business with them in the future could see exactly what kind of people they were. The day I walked out of that lawyer's office, signed settlement in hand, was the day I really understood what power felt like. Not power over other people, but power over my own life. The power to protect my daughter, to secure our future, to make sure no one ever tried to manipulate us again. My husband moved in with his mother seemed fitting, really. I filed for divorce the following week, and given everything that had happened, it was pretty straightforward. He didn't contest custody, probably knew he didn't have a leg to stand on after everything that came out in the lawsuits. 6 months. Later, I'm sitting in my house with my name on the deed, watching my daughter take her first steps across the living room floor. The same living room where her father once told me I wasn't ready for adult responsibilities. I've got a new job with better pay and benefits. I've got a rock-solid legal precedent if anyone ever tries to mess with my family again. And I've got the sweetest, smartest little girl who's never going to grow up thinking it's normal for people to lie, steal, and manipulate the ones they claim to love. My ex-husband calls sometimes, wanting to see his daughter. We meet at the park downtown, neutral territory, and he spends an hour pushing her on the swings while I sit on a bench, reading or scrolling through my phone. He always looks tired, older somehow. His mother apparently hasn't backed off her controlling ways just because their scheme failed. If anything, she's gotten worse, probably blaming him for everything falling apart. Sometimes I catch him looking at me with this expression I can't quite read. Regret, maybe? Or just surprise that the woman he thought was too naive to handle. Adult responsibilities had outmaneuvered him completely. But here's the thing, I don't feel angry anymore. I don't feel hurt or betrayed or any of those emotions that kept me up at night for months. I feel grateful. Grateful that I found out who he really was before I wasted more years of my life. Grateful that I had the strength to fight back instead of just accepting their version of reality. Grateful that my daughter will grow up seeing that women don't have to accept being controlled, manipulated, or underestimated. Most of all, I'm grateful for that smile I gave him in the hospital room when he told me I wasn't ready. That smile, that said, we'll see about that, because we sure did see about that, didn't we? These days, when people ask me for advice about relationships or dealing with difficult family members, I always tell them the same thing. Document everything, trust your instincts, and never let anyone convince you that you're not capable of protecting yourself and your children. And if someone ever tells you you're not ready for adult responsibilities while you're literally holding the baby you just spent 18 hours bringing into this world, well, that's when you smile real sweet and show them exactly how ready you are.